Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the At Odds podcast. As always, I'm joined by the two Sams, Boswell and Farley, to talk about this weekend's sport. I feel it's going to be a busier weekend for you two, actually, with the NFL, St. Ledger Festival, and it's a little bit quieter for me. But while we're on the topic of NFL, we've got our own NFL podcast for the season with previews of this weekend's games, little anti-post picks too. So if you have not yet listened to that, give that a listen. It's available on all of our platforms. But to go ahead with this week, where should we start? The Premier League, I'd say. We've got a massive Saturday night game. I say that as a City fan, obviously. But it's City versus Spurs on the Saturday night. And there's not much of an intro I've got to give it, really. I think that it's going to be Haaland versus Harry Kane, I'd say. I'll start with you, Sam Boswell. Let's go to you. How do you think this game goes?
Haaland will score. That's fine. I had the misfortune of having a significant wager, as people that watched last week's show will know, on Man City -1 last week, Jake. My God. Gerrard was basically gone, and all they needed to do was Haaland could have scored a couple, and that would have been the equivalent of stamping on his fingers, and he'd have been free falling off the edge of the building, to use a movie metaphor, if you like. Unfortunately, you didn't manage it, and I can't be taking you at any price against a better team. And Spurs have looked to me like they're not the finished article yet, but much improved and a bit more like they can grind a result out. They're a massive price, and I'll let people in. No, my bet for the game will be different to my best bet for the weekend, so I'll try and save that to keep my powder dry. But I think this is a game made for Harry Kane. I really do. I think your defence, Jake, has looked a little bit iffy at times. They've still got the error in them that they don't seem to be consistent enough. He's 6-4 to score or assist, Harry Kane. He'll play the full duration, whereas I do think with the likes of Richarlison impressing for Spurs in midweek, I would think Son, who, from what I've seen of Spurs, I've not watched 90 minutes of them every week. I'm really weirdly worried about his form. So I think Harry Kane 6-4 score assist for a 90-minute bet. That's where I want to go. My best bet of the weekend, I'll give a little intro to it now. Spurs +2 is 5-6. I think that's huge to put in an Acca. Even if you think City are going to win, do you really think they're going to be by more than a goal? I don't think so at all. So that's my, I guess, hot take on the Spurs game. Harry Kane to really turn up and put in a big performance. And I want to see Harry playing really well before the World Cup. He needs to take it up a notch. I think he's doing okay so far this year, but let's get him firing.
Yeah, I mean, that is a big price. And we have seen Harry Kane return to form somewhat this season. Last season's game at the Etihad, Spurs won 3-2, and that was a game where Harry Kane, Son, Kulusevski, they all ran City ragged, and it may be more of the same this weekend. It always seems like Spurs do have City's number sometimes. Farley, what do you think about this game?
I'm going to jump straight in with my best bet and then kind of work from there. My best bet for this one is draw at half-time, Man City at full-time at 18-5, basically 4-1. Put simply, Spurs have been starting very defensively in their games. We saw it against Marseille in the Champions League. Everyone on Twitter was sort of saying, I'll be honest, I wasn't watching the game. I was too busy watching Napoli destroy Liverpool, which was a really fun game. But everyone on Twitter was just saying, what's this? This is boring. This isn't Spurs. All this stuff. When they're drawing and it's not attractive, suddenly the Antonio Conte bashers come out. But ultimately, they won the game. They're a very good team. But I think they're going to start slow against Man City. They're going to try to soak up that pressure. And ultimately, City will win this game for me because, one, I think they're the better team. They have Erling Haaland. We talked enough about him through the weeks, brilliant as he is. And they've got the one kind of benefit here is they played a day earlier and they play a day later next week. So everything's kind of set up for them to have not really the same risk in terms of rotation or tiredness. So for me, draw at halftime, City makes perfect sense. And also it's worth noting that this happened in both games last season, that it was drawing at halftime. And also the last time they met before that was the Carabao Cup, which was also a draw at halftime. So I think there's previous form for this, and the way these games seem to go, it just works for me. And at 18-5, I'll take that every day of the week.
Now, I feel you both are thinking that this game is going to be tight then. And I think the same too. I do think we'll see both teams scoring. Now, I've gone for a bit of a long shot in this one. I've gone for City to win and Harry Kane to score a header at 33-1. I think that in
specific, Jake.
Yes. In the 3-2 win that Spurs had last time against us, they were trying to target Harry Kane in crossing and just pumping it into the box for him. And I feel that if Richarlison starts, it's going to be the same again. They're going to be trying to get the ball in the box for the head of Harry Kane and Richarlison. I was going to go a little bit safer and go for City to win and Kane to score, which is looking at around 6-1, which again I think is a great price. I just think that I've got to back City in this one. We didn't really have to get out of first gear against Sevilla and won 4-0. And again, that's a Sevilla side who are struggling at the minute. I understand that. But I'm just thinking that the confidence in that game going in towards this one against the Spurs side, who, like you said, Farley, they were slow on Wednesday. I watched the game through the BT Sport Goal Show, which is the best show on TV, by the way. And every highlight that they showed that game was just Spurs hitting the ball against the defenders, trying to get crosses in, just struggling. And then once they did get against 10 men, Spurs started to kick on. So, yeah, I just feel like it is going to be one of them games that it's going to be a goal either side, maybe, I'd say. But it should be a good one.
That's good because it means you agree with my best bet for the weekend, Jake.
Yes.
Which is going to be Spurs +2, but we'll round that off at the end of the show and I'll reiterate it then because we've got loads more to come. But yeah, it should be a good game, tea time game. Jake, I assume you're going to the game?
Yes, of course.
So you'll be able to go there and give all your wisdom at the end of the game and tell us how bad Spurs nick.
I'll be 5 or 6 pints deep by then probably, but I'm either going to drown my sorrows or I'll be cheering.
That sounds excellent. Well, let's move on then to our best bets for Saturday because there's other games on Saturday. Quite nice at the moment, isn't it, lads? We've got these fairly full schedules. It's starting to creep in now, the European football, isn't it? We're going to have 3 games, aren't we, on Sunday? I quite like it when we have a good chunk of games on the Saturday. It feels a bit more like match of the day's worth watching on a Saturday night. But we've gone for a real eclectic mix of bets here. We've got a card bet, we've got a draw no bet, and we've got a traditional 1x2 bet. So, Sam Farley, you think, and this is a good chance to talk about this, you were very unlucky with this shout. Tommy Tuchel, gone. You said in our pre-season pod you feared for him. Those foundations were proven right. There's been a lot that's come out since suggesting that the signings weren't his and that kind of thing. But you still think Chelsea at 4-5 away at neighbours Fulham in the friendliest derby in the world is worth a bet?
Yeah, I think so. I was actually quite surprised when the news broke that Potter was taking the job and it's obviously all official. I was quite surprised that he'd be in the dugout as soon as Saturday. Especially given it's the early kickoff as well. So he's going to have 1 day's training with these guys. And even that's going to be a light session because of the game. So that isn't what I would have done if I were him. I'd probably look to kind of just be there overseeing it, but actually kind of start proper on the Monday. But for me, Chelsea at 4-5, admittedly, he's not going to have time to work the magic he's done at Brighton. And I think that's something we can talk about. That's a whole different conversation, what he's achieved previously with frankly, a pretty average Brighton squad. But I think just you always see this in the new manager bounce. It is a real thing. It always happens. I mean, if Bournemouth can achieve a new manager bounce with a group of players that wouldn't look out of place at Sunday League, I'm sure Chelsea with a team packed full of brilliant international footballers is going to have no problem. So Chelsea 4-5. I think this is actually weirdly, this was the game I thought would be a trap when I was looking at this sort of on Monday. And now I've gone totally flipped the other way. Chelsea, go and walk this. Fulham have been very good this season. Mitrovic, brilliant striker, but you're going to get a team who are running harder than they've run in months just to try and impress the new guy, keep their place. And especially after that sort of Champions League horror show, they're going to be looking for redemption. And I'm pretty confident that this group of players can deliver that.
Yeah, that's... I think I know we say, don't we, the early kickoff jinx, but on paper, that there's too much quality in that squad at Chelsea to be getting For as good as Fulham have been, yeah, I see it. Jake, I love a card bet, and you put one up this week. So share your wisdom with me, please.
Yes, so my best bet for Saturday's games is Adam Smith to be carded for Bournemouth. Now, Smith is tied for the most cards in the Premier League so far this season with 4. And I just think at 3-1, it's value. It's massive value. Bournemouth are against Brighton, who took apart Leicester last weekend. Is it going to be tough without Graham Potter there? Time can only tell, really. I'm just banking on this game for Brighton to just carry on as normal. If Brighton do carry on as normal and perform as they did against Leicester, then they're going to absolutely thump Bournemouth, I think. Absolutely thump them. Now, don't get me wrong, Bournemouth did come back against Forest last weekend. Gary O'Neill seems to have the backing of the players. The players are certainly working hard for him, but I just think that Brighton...
I think what's interesting about Potter's removal, Jake, is he's taken a lot of the backroom staff with him. We've got, I believe it's Adam Lallana and somebody I can't recall the name of taking the team. I'm sure they won't want to change much, but I don't know. The days of player managers feel long gone, don't they? It feels like something to throw back to sort of 90s Premier League football. And I don't think Lallana will be going for the job full time. And I like the card bet. I like the logic of the card bet. 3-1 is a bit of a big price about a player that's the most booked player so far this season.
Yeah. Are there any, while we're on the topic of Brighton, obviously that's an empty spot that's available. Are there any names who you two have in mind for the Brighton job? Is there anyone you think that might get it?
Sam, I'll let you go first here.
I mean, they're being linked with Adam Lallana, aren't they? Which I think is it's not that appealing.
Get him into full time.
Brighton, we've seen with the hiring of Potter to start with, and with their work signings, with their work signing players, they don't follow the traditional routes, and I would be quite confident that they'll pick somebody that we might not really have in the running right now.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you a thing about the anti-post favourite, Kjell Knudsen, who I believe is it Denmark he's been managing in before.
I think he's at Bodo Glimt, maybe, something like that.
You know, at time of recording, he's a 5-shot. It's quite rare you have a manager market where the market is from the biggest prices. Co-favourites at 5-1 probably shows you the depth of sort of suggestion. Nathan Jones, wouldn't mind seeing him given a chance at big club, but depends if he'd fit the motto. Interestingly, for those that don't know, the owner of Brighton, Tony Bloom, would be using a huge amount of data with regards to how they coach and manage and sign players. He'll do the exact same. He obviously did a wonderful job to find Potter, and even though I'm a Palace fan, you have to admire what he achieved there. Bit easier to say now he's gone. I'm hoping they make a bad appointment, but I'd be surprised if they do. They know what they're doing. Who would I pick for the job? Don't know. I don't think Sean Dyche will go there. Weirdly, I wonder if Brendan Rodgers wants to get out of Leicester and go straight into work elsewhere. I could see that being a popular appointment. The Premier League experience. I know Leicester fans are questioning his ability to sign players. For all he didn't sign many this summer, they're saying his previous signings weren't great. I could see that face fitting, but do you think I'm expecting it to be someone who's probably not got the depth of football knowledge to really appreciate? You're not going to get your weird appointment at Brighton. It will be someone that they can work with. But yeah, intriguing and obviously fun markets to have a look at. Got to be very quick.
Yeah, definitely.
Certainly didn't see Thomas go.
Yeah, one thing to say too, I imagine the odds of Graham Potter to be the next Premier League manager to leave after Tuchel was sacked. I can imagine that his odds straight away were high, massive. So they are markets definitely to keep an eye on, 100%.
Indeed. Right. My shout then, I suppose. This is an interesting one. So I was flicking through and I've drawn no bets in market I've played before. Brentford travelled to Southampton. And I'll be honest, I think at the start of the season, I questioned Brentford and I was completely wrong. They found some talent there, the likes of De Silva. They seem to have a really nice spirit about them. Obviously, Ivan Toney absolutely flying at the moment. And I think they've done very well to hang on to him, guys. Like, do you not think he's the sort of player Chelsea should have been looking at in the transfer window?
Yeah, 100%. And we've spoken recent weeks around the England market. Could he have a shout for the England squad? Gareth Southgate will call him up. Gareth Southgate will call him up for the friendlies this month, I can imagine.
What do you reckon, Farley? It's your ballpark.
Yeah, I think he should be in the next England squad. I can't see him not being in that squad, to be honest. The question is whether he gets into the World Cup team, and ultimately I'd have question marks over that, because he does seem like maybe he's got a bit of a arrogance and ego that I think doesn't really fit with what Southgate's trying to achieve with his England team. So that's my one thing that would hold me back from betting it. But I mean, I think he probably will make the squad and should probably be at the World Cup as well on current form.
Yeah. Very quickly on my selection, just to wheel it back. So obviously we saw them hit 5 against Leeds last week. I worry for Leeds a little bit at the moment, I must say. I'm not quite sure where they're going. Previous results included a draw against Crystal Palace, where, to be frank, Palace were lucky to hang on to that. Yes, Brentford scored late, but they also hit the bar, Ben Mee. That could have quite easily been 3 points. The draw against Everton was arguably a bit underwhelming, but Everton have proved to not actually be as bad as I think we thought they were. A win in the EFL Cup, so winning the EFL Cup. And then there was a couple of strange results where they shipped 3 against Fulham. That's probably a bit of the odd one out, but they do get a lot of draws. Just flicking through, that's 1, 2, 3. They're already on 3 draws from 6 league games this season. So, yeah, I'm quite happy to have that in my favour as well and get the stake back. But 6-5. Southampton, for me, I know it's easy to crab a team that you think are a bit unfashionable. They have had some decent spells this year. I don't think they're as bad as I thought they were. But odds against for Brentford to get the win away from home, that's going to be my bet.
Nice. I like it. Farley, do you want to kick us off with Sunday?
Yeah, so Sunday, look, we've got some great bets here. But for me, Newcastle to win at 39-20, basically 4-1, is absolutely bonkers to me. We've seen this Newcastle team are playing some good football. They're away at West Ham, who've been pretty poor, and more importantly, they have European football to deal with. Actually, do they have European football to deal with?
Yeah, they're playing Thursday night. Yeah.
I've literally had a total brain fade then. I suddenly looked at West Ham's fixtures.
And you love the Europa League and the Europa Conference, Farley, so much as anyone that watched our Champions League previews would see. You're a hipster. This is your domain.
No, do you know genuinely what happened then? This is embarrassing. I had the Newcastle fixtures up, and I suddenly thought, wait there, where's the Thursday night game? Thinking I was looking at the West Ham fixtures. God, that totally spun me there. Ultimately, West Ham not particularly good. They've got a game on Thursday.
Hold on. I'm going to have to pull you up here. They were a dodgy ref decision away from a point away at Chelsea. They drew against Spurs, who we think are a decent side. They beat Villa, who have come back into some sort of form. I mean, are we being a little bit harsh there, Sam?
Look, I think they're okay. Maybe they're not a bad side. They are a relatively good side, and I think Moyes is a good manager who can make things tough for other teams and kind of grind out wins. But ultimately, this Newcastle team, I think they've shown that they are a step above those kind of medium, sort of middle of the table teams. I mean, they're not quite at the level of the top 4 yet, but they're getting closer. And I think this should be an easy away win. And for nearly 2-1, this is a must kind of bet for me. I don't say that often, but this is a must bet. Get that cash down.
Well, I guess I kind of follow on from that, because I watched the whole of the 90 minutes on Saturday, Newcastle Palace, and I must say the new signing Isak's really impressed me. I think he's exactly what you need in the Premier League. No disrespect to Chris Wood, but this guy is a natural forward. He missed a one-on-one with the keeper, which was a bit disappointing, but he's already opened his account for Newcastle, and he's 11-8 to score or assist. Now, the assist bit is just a bit of an insurance from my point of view. If a striker squares a ball or something, it's quite a nice way of easily getting involved. And I kind of agree with you, Sam. I worry West Ham now. All right, this is only sort of the 3rd game in Europe for them. These games are going to really clock up and impact them. And I'm quite happy to take on a Thursday night team on a Sunday against a team that hasn't. If you think they're off similar levels this season, I was only sort of jesting when you said West Ham weren't bad, I suppose. But I think the games are going to come. They have signed enough players, West Ham, to strengthen the squad. until Antonio's hamstrings made out of cheese pop or do something silly, or you find that, they get an injury to Rice. There's a lot of the same faces doing the heavy lifting at that club, and they can't do it forever. So, yeah, I thought Isak was a fantastic signing for Newcastle, going back to him. I know they're lacking some key players, but I'm sure they'll find a way of getting the ball into his feet. They should have beaten Palace at the weekend. It was only really some heroic defending and the woodwork that stopped Newcastle getting 3 points. So I'd be surprised if he doesn't get involved in a goal or an assist here.
Fair. I like that. I think you two are sleeping on West Ham a little bit, to be fair, though. I think the signing of Lucas Paqueta is unreal. He's someone that I wanted us to sign for a long time.
How do big players at West Ham tend to work out, though?
Yeah.
Do you remember when they got relegated with the best ever side? Paolo Di Canio, brilliant for the most part, in fairness, probably a bad example. Tevez and Mascherano didn't really work out. They saved them on the last day of the season, but let's be honest, they would have had higher. Don't know, it's just something about big money signings. Chicharito, big money signings in that club. I'm not sure.
Jake, I can see what you've picked for this game, and I'll be honest, firstly, the bet type, and secondly, the team that this guy plays for, this has Sam Boswell bet written all over it. So can we just confirm, is this your bet, and what is it for the listeners at home?
Sam Boswell bet written all over it indeed, mate. So this score or assist market is something that Boz has thrown to us too over the last few weeks, and it's something that we've both loved. And I've gone for this score or assist market again for the Palace Man United game on Sunday. Wilf Zaha to score or assist. Now, I was going to just go for him to score. He's not got an assist this season, and he scored 4 goals in 5 games. 5-2 is a big price for him just to score. But again, similar to what you were saying, Boz, it's an insurance market for that. There is going to be times where Zaha, I know we don't see him pass across a lot when he's got a shot on target to have, but there may be something where he slices a shot and it lands to the feet of another player. But I just think 11-8 is a great price. And again, 4 goals in 5 games so far for Zaha against his former club.
Playing for a new contract as well. He's clearly desperate to stay at Palace, having not managed to move for yet another. I don't know if he's desperate to stay, but we're hoping. Just to say as well that he's a sort of player. Him and Richarlison, there's a new market out there. It's not priced yet, annoyingly, for the weekend, but the score or booked market, you could probably just have a treble on Mitrovic, Zaha, and Richarlison if he played the 90 minutes. That would be a treble every week where you could quite feasibly see that coming in. I mean, fair play to bookmakers. They're trying to be a bit more inventive out there. And, for your 90-minute bets, it's kind of what you need. So, I like it, Jake. I'll be backing it on Sunday.
All right, should we get stuck into the Monday Night Football then?
Yeah, so Monday Night Football is Leeds Forest this Monday. What we will say is, Boz, you've decided not to have a bet on this, and I think that is important because how many times do we say to you listeners, if there's no bet to be had, don't force it. There's
really quickly on that. I spent genuinely 15 minutes looking at the game, and I couldn't find one that I thought was any real value. So potentially it might be my knowledge on the teams. One really quick note on Forest. I still can't get a grip on their squad. Obviously, they had all those new additions. I think feasibly I'd want to see team news before even thinking about anything to do with them. And as for Leeds, I can't call them right this season. So I'm going to sit back, relax, and listen to you guys tell me what you think we should be backing in the game.
Yeah, I have a mate who's a Leeds fan, and he's been very vocal in the last couple of weeks on the board and the team itself because there's been the team and the squad isn't strong enough. And we've seen in recent weeks that Leeds have been struggling. They've not won in 3 league games now, so it's going to be tough. But we say they've not won in 3 league games. Me and Farley are both picking them to win in our bets. So, Farley, I'll go with you first. Why do you fancy Leeds to win on Monday?
Put simply, I just think I don't know if they necessarily are the better team, but I think the most important thing here is they know who their first 11 are, whereas Forest don't. I mean, even this week, the transfer window's closed. They've still picked up Serge Aurier on a free. The business they're doing it's bonkers, and we've never seen in the Premier League. I mean, we saw Fulham, was it 2 years ago? They decided to basically replace their starting 11 that got them promoted with loads of players, and it was a disaster. And I don't, as good as Steve Cooper is, and I think he's a fantastic manager. I think he's a future England manager, actually.
Whoa! Really?
Yeah,
I've to say about that.
I mean, Graham Potter's gone now. That's not going to happen for a long time, I think.
Chelsea get rid of their managers every 18 months.
Yeah, it'll be free after the World Cup and Southgate gets turfed out. We'll be all right.
No, Steve Cooper will definitely be an England manager. I'm sure of it. Obviously, managed a youth setup. He's done well where he's been. But anyway, we'll get stuck into that in a second. But I just think that he doesn't know what his team is. No one knows what his team is, and ultimately, there's no chemistry there. There's no cohesion. Any unity that they had after the promotion is gone. Half those players aren't there. Half of them that are there are now on the bench and probably a bit annoyed. You've got players that were signed at the start of the window who've now been replaced by players that were signed at the end of the window. What on earth is that doing for unity? And for me, I just and this is bad because I'm probably, like you mentioned, Sam, about betting when you're not 100% sure. I'm almost at the point with Forest now. Against any half-decent team, I expect them to lose because this is just... This chemistry just can't work no matter how good a manager you are. So for me, 4-5 for Leeds. I'm not going to go overboard. I'm not going to put on a huge bet on it. But on Monday night, when I'm watching that, hopefully I'll whack on a couple of quid on Leeds just to kind of keep things interesting.
Yeah, my pick for it's Leeds and both teams to score, and that's around 3-1. And again, that's might more be down to the fact that I think that Forest aren't good enough to beat Leeds. And that comeback by Bournemouth last week definitely will have hampered them a lot. So Monday Night Football, again, massive game in terms of the bottom half of the table, I think, already, as you can see. But that wraps up the weekend's football. We will get onto Bankers Bust and Draw in a second. Before we do that, again, as always, make sure you do like, subscribe to us, follow us, ask us any questions around the Premier League that you have. Obviously, the Premier League's massive in terms of UK football, but if there is any questions about any sport, NFL, racing, we are here to answer them, and we will answer some of your questions towards the end of the show. Bankers Bust and Draw. Boz, do you want to lead us on that then?
Go on then. Right, here we go. Bankers Bust and Draw. So I got to go last, and I will never allow myself to replicate at least twice. Yeah. And I've chopped and changed my mind a few times, but let's kick off with Bankers. And Farley was busy laughing at this team midweek, and I can see why, because I think, those dodgy sports films, maybe it was Space Jam, where all the players seem to lose the ability to play. Well, I'm fairly sure that's what's happened to Liverpool at times this season, because Trent Alexander-Arnold, he's too busy thinking about pregnant women than he is defending, because I'll be completely frank, he has been awful this season so far. And I'm really concerned that he needs to focus on his game, especially with the World Cup coming. And you lads can laugh at my bad puns, but honestly, do you not think he is having an apps? Will you take him to the World Cup?
That video of that Napoli goal.
Walking.
I still cannot believe what I saw. He stood still, turns around and just watches it and then walks forward a little bit. It's like, what is that? It's just
our character for a Jurgen Klopp team, and that's my big concern. Yeah. However, how on earth are we talking about Liverpool in the banker section then? Because I do not think Jurgen Klopp will allow this Liverpool team to get beaten badly again by Wolverhampton Wanderers. They're 1-3. Are they a bet? Well, maybe not, but I just think they'll do the job, and I can see him making changes. To me, the biggest problem Liverpool have got is that midfield, but I think they can overcome that, and I think the quality is still there. Listen, you don't become a dreadful side overnight. You become a lazy side overnight. You become an ineffective side overnight. And that's what Klopp's going to have to do. I think we'll see a real change. I think Tsimikas might start over Robinson or Trent. I'm not sure whether he can shuffle one of them to the other side or not. I don't know. But I think Liverpool have got too much quality to get beat again. And I think that defeat was so bad. In a way, I think it will do them big favours. I know, obviously, they drew against Everton. Derby games are a bit different. I think Jurgen will be worried, but I think he will get the best from them. He's got a £100 million striker there. He needs to get starting rather than having him off the bench. I think Diaz was great, and he's just blowing a bit hot and cold. And Mo Salah needs to turn up. But every time people doubt Mo Salah, he comes back. And this game, he'll turn up and score. Liverpool get the win. That's my banker. Jake, your banker.
My banker, Arsenal to beat Everton. You two have both waxed lyrical about Arsenal over the last few weeks, how amazing they are, brilliant they are. This is more due to the fact that Jordan Pickford's out for a month for Everton, and I think that they're going to miss him massively. And Arsenal banker, I think like 3 to 10 is obviously very short, but something that we do need to touch up on over the maybe towards the end of the show is Pickford being injured, because it may be that we go into the World Cup with a different number one and there might be value to add in that market. Arsenal, my banker, I think.
Yeah, fair enough. I thought they were unlucky against United, to be honest. I know United were more clinical, but God, Arsenal had their chances. And let's not talk about VAR for the 5th time in about 4 weeks, because it does my head in. Farley, who's your banker, please?
Banker, it's Man United away at Palace.
Get out. You're just trying to upset me now.
Oh, no.
No, I just think I think Man United now, they're a team. I think they're like defensively, I just think they're good. And I'd say a little Man United and under 2.5 is the sort of bet that's going to land in most games against lower table opposition. And I think I could see that here, but I think United are going to win ultimately.
Fine.
Nice.
Fine. Yeah, that's short and sweet. And, the new signings do seem to be hitting the ground running now. Fantastic. Right. So who are we busting then this week? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll do it in reverse order. Sam, come on. Give me your bust this week. And I think there's some logic we've touched on in the show.
Yeah, for me, Brighton are the bust. They are, and this is absolutely mental, they are odds on the road, admittedly against Bournemouth, but they are odds on the road. And they just lost their manager, the guy who has turned this club from a rubbish Premier League team to one of the most kind of envied and respected teams around. And I just think that's got to be a huge psychological hit for these players. And look, I did kind of toy with actually tipping up Bournemouth to win at 4-1, but I think that might be a step too far. But I just cannot see Brighton getting 3 points here, even against Bournemouth, who I've slated on a near weekly basis.
Yeah, no, I get the logic, and I tell you what, I would not be backing Brighton, put it that way.
Under evens is insane.
Yeah, there's good logic there. I'm putting City up just on my theory that I thought Spurs were going to be a handful, and I think City, what are you, 1-3 again, Jake? That's just too short against the team. Hang on, yeah. So you were away at Villa and you were 1-3, and you're home to Spurs and you're 1-3. And let's be honest, your stadium's not like some sort of cauldron of intensity, and it's not particularly hard for a team to go away and play well there. It's not. Come on, it's nothing personal. Like there's no intimidating atmospheres in the Premier League anyway, really at the top level. Palace do an all right job, but it's not like Europe, is it, where it's welcome to hell in Turkey and stuff like that. So, yeah, Man City for me. If I'm going to be thinking Spurs, I'm being really cowardly on the best bets for the whole show, which I'll come to at the end. But for me, I think City are a little bit iffy. I'm leaving them alone. Jake, you are actually going to go the reverse of Farley here, because Farley's put Chelsea up to win and you've got them as a bust.
Yes, reverse of Farley fully. Chelsea, I think that Fulham will get a result against them. Pardon the pun, lads, but Potter isn't exactly magic, is he? Let's be honest. At the end of the day, Brighton had a big spell with Potter where they were struggling. And just because he's got Brighton in good form now after working with those players for months on end, doesn't mean he's going to come into a Chelsea side and get everything ticking straight away. I think it's going to take time. Can he work with players with the big egos that those Chelsea players have? I'm not so sure. It's one of them. It's one of them signings of a manager that's a tough one. Everyone's thinking, all right, Graham Potter is going to be perfect fit for Chelsea. I just have question marks about him, to be honest. And I think 7-10 Chelsea are. Fulham are going to be up for this. They're going to be seeing that Chelsea performance last week against West Ham, see how West Ham created chances. They're going to be seeing the Chelsea performance in the midweek, see how they created chances. Mitrovic is going to be up for this game, definitely.
He'll be up for a yellow card. That'll be my day. Right. Okay, then. So we now come to the draws. I was going to go first just to screw Jake over because we've gone for the same game, but I'll let Jake go first.
Yeah, my draw is West Ham Newcastle, and again, I know you two were bigging up Newcastle in your Sunday best bets, but I just think West Ham are a good team. I think last season they did well with Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, Thursday, Sunday, and I'm expecting more of the same here. I was really impressed with how they played against Chelsea last weekend, and I think that against Newcastle this weekend, they're going to be playing well there again. You said about atmospheres in the Premier League too, Boz. The atmosphere at West Ham has been improving week by week. I think the fans are getting behind the player.
It has actually. That stadium has definitely improved. Really has.
It's improved massively, and I think the team will get behind him.
All right. Well, you've made the case for West Ham to play well in it. I think they'll play enough to get the draw. I do like Newcastle. Farley's a bit keen on them. Obviously, I've gone for Acca to score or assists, but that was my draw. You've kind of stolen my thunder a little bit. I think the Thursday, Sunday thing, it's probably in a month's time that's going to start grinding. And it's not like a normal season because we're having to squeeze everything in. And, we're recording this at a time where we're expecting potentially an event that could cause some fixture congestion to happen as well. So maybe I'm thinking a little bit later down the line, that will be potentially where the fixtures get bite for the Thursday, Sunday sides. Sam, hopefully you've gone for West Ham, Newcastle draw, and we've not made it a full house. I don't think
I'm going for West Ham. No, this is El Sacico. It is Brendan Rodgers versus Aston Villa. A turgid game, not one I'll be watching, that's for sure. A team that can't defend versus a team that are totally disorganized. It's a draw for me. So that wraps that up. Let's get stuck straight into the EFL bets. And last week we all won our EFL bet, which I think as a treble would have been 10-1. So if you'd have backed our EFL bets this season, you'd already had a 10-1, a 12-1. And this is obviously an area that maybe we're quite good at. So let's just get stuck straight into these. And Jake, I see the team you've mentioned here, and I love it. So let's hear this bet.
Well, Farley, I've gone for probably the biggest team in the league, to be honest, in the Football League in total, Plymouth Argyle, to win and both teams to score at the weekend. Now, they play Sheffield Wednesday. It's going to be a tricky game, but I just feel that that performance last weekend against Derby to come back and win, stunning. Farley, you was there, right?
Yeah, masterful. Masterful
exactly. So I just feel 9-2, big price, massive price for a team who can score goals against the Sheffield Wednesday side who also can score goals. And obviously Plymouth can concede goals too, Farley. So 9-2, big price. I think it's a good bet for the weekend.
I love it. What you got for us then, Boz?
Yeah, as usual, I'm sticking towards the Championship because I'm not the greatest League One, League Two expert, but somehow I've not been letting the side down. Norwich did the business last week. This is an interesting one because I've gone against West Brom on occasions this season, but they're 9 points so far from 8 games. Just the one win, which would, I suppose, concern you putting them up as a win bet. But they go to Coventry, who I've taken on this season on multiple occasions. More than happy to do so. They're languishing at the foot of the table, Coventry, on just 1 point. Obviously, no wins to their name, just a solitary draw. They have only played 5 times because they had that pitch issue. But I can't believe that they're in particularly strong form. This is the sort of game West Brom, unbeaten in 3, but 3 draws. They've got to win this. And I'm a little bit surprised you can get odds against. I sort of had them down as an even money shot. There's a bit of 6-5 kicking about 11-10. So yeah, for me, West Brom should have the quality to beat them. Coventry, I really fear for this season. I think honestly that pitch issue. I know there's other problems at the club with injuries and players, but geez, if you can't start your season on time, what hope have you got?
Yeah, totally agree. To wrap it up now, I'm going to pick Bolton away at Charlton. And sorry, not Charlton, Cheltenham. I've been picking against Cheltenham so many times this season. Yeah, so I do apologise to Cheltenham fans here because this isn't. I'm not going to put you on blast here. You're 22nd in the league. You've lost 4 of your 7, but you have had a few, reasonable results recently. Grabbed a couple of draws. But for me, the reason I'm betting this is purely Bolton. I saw them against Plymouth a couple of weeks ago, and we managed to win, but they were really impressive for me. They're sat in 8th currently, and I think they are better than that, to be honest. I could see this being a team who are maybe not automatic, but there or thereabouts, maybe at the very top end of the playoffs. Really impressed by them, and I think Cheltenham are, not the best team right now, but Bolton are playing very well, some really, really good football, and should win here. And at 15-13, you're getting over even money. So for me, that's just a must bet for the weekend.
This is a huge price, is it not?
28-1 for the treble. Admittedly, that is a lot of that. I mean, we're all over evens, but Jake's Plymouth to win and both teams to score is the one kind of doing the heavy lifting there. But if you like this bet, then definitely worth a look.
I like it. It's great odds. Shall we increase our carbon footprint and go and take a jet to America, Farley? I'm going to jump straight back to you because we'll see what other picks we've got for this weekend sport around the globe. And you've got a pick for the MLS, is that correct?
Yeah, now I must admit I don't watch a huge amount of the MLS, but LAFC on the road at FC Dallas, you're getting over even money, 13-10, and they should really win this. Let me just get my stats up in front of me. In the Western Conference, LAFC are top, 60 points compared to FC Dallas, who are third. Game extra played, but 46 points, 14 behind them. And this LAFC team, it's one that I think most people in England and certainly in Wales have kind of kept a little eye on just because of Gareth Bale. And ultimately, they should win here. They've got a very good record. They've won 19 of their 29 games. That's more than anybody else in the entirety of MLS. And I think ultimately they should come away with the win here. And I think it's a very nice price.
Fair shout, Sam. Jake, I'll save you a job. Sporting Lisbon have scarred me over the last few weeks for my foreign footy tip. So decided to just leave it this week. So I'll let you finish up and tell us what you fancy.
Fair enough. Yeah, my pick is just a little bit of value that I've seen in the weekend's football. So mine's Antoine Griezmann to score last at 9-2 for Atletico against Celta Vigo. Now, if you've not followed Griezmann's story of this time round at Atletico, he signed a deal to play for Atletico from Barcelona, but there is a clause in that deal where if he plays more than a certain percentage of minutes in each game across the season, then Atletico have to pay 40 million to Barcelona. So he's averaging 30 minutes a game. He comes on 60th minute plus.
Such a brilliant trolling, isn't it, of that?
Yeah, it's got Simeone written all over it, to be honest. And as we saw midweek, he scored a winner in the 100th minute for Atletico against Porto. And he's clearly coming on and giving his all. Like, there's some players who may see that and may think, oh no, this is like 30 minutes that I'm going to be getting every game. But he's obviously putting the effort in because at the end of the day, he's got a World Cup spot to keep hold of. So Griezmann to score last 9-2 for Atletico against Celta Vigo is my pick for the foreign football. Now, Boz, you did say you haven't got a pick. Shall we move on to racing for this week? Now, it's the St. Leger Festival. Is there anything you've got for the weekend's racing in Doncaster?
Yeah, so Doncaster, the St. Leger, one of the I think it's the oldest classic, and it's sort of forms a triple crown, really. The aim is obviously to start off the season, win a classic at the Guineas over a mile, step up for the Derby, and then step up for this. Very few horses have ever managed it, which shows how tough it is. We have got a horse that ran in the Derby and finished second at a huge 150-1. That's not going to be my tip for the race, though. The good news is, if you don't like the favourite, we've got a really good each-way angle into the race because we've got 9 runners, so you're going to get the 2 extra places. And Hul Yamal was the horse that finished second in the Derby. He's a 13-2 shot. Your favourite is New London, odds on for Charlie Appleby. And it's really hard to knock this horse. Godolphin are winning everything. Charlie Appleby at a 38% strike rate. But he's odds on, so I've got to find something at a bit of value to play the each-way side of it. And I've got 2 choices here in my book. One is going to be either Elgar Eldarov for Roger Varian. Roger's in absolutely scintillating form as well himself. As a trainer, he's operating at, I think, around a 25-26% strike rate. Or we have Frankie Dettori's mount here. Frankie's still very much a good go-to jockey. for all he's getting a little bit old these days and did have a falling out, but he's reunited with his usual training team. He rides quite a bit for Rafe Beckett. And this horse, Haskoy, has been supplemented into the race. So Connections have had to pay to add him in, add her in, I should say, later on. Let's get her gender right. She's by a horse called Golden Horn that was a Derby winner who liked to go over a further and further trip. Was incredibly impressive at Wolverhampton first time out. If you can dig out the replay when you've got 5 minutes, it's well worth a watch. Won by 7 lengths, going away, pulling like a train. York, the next time out, I was a little bit underwhelmed with the win, but that was a listed race, beating a horse in the same ownership by a neck. So for me, I just thought 13-2. She's got to have to improve and find a bit. She'll get £3 from the boys in weight. I thought she was a really interesting contender, and at 13-2, I'm certainly going to be keen on her. It's a real shame because we've got Irish Champions Weekend as well, which will be on ITV. There was a horse I quite liked in their Champion Stakes, but we've only got 2 places. It's only 7 runners, so I'm going to be probably not bothering to have the each way double on Luxembourg at 9-2. But that'd be my interest in that race as well, if you just wanted to know what's going on this weekend. We're getting to the end of the flat season now, as the seasons dictate. The Arc by Ede, a little bit weak today. Fingers crossed we still get that 33-1 shot to run. And we'll have Champions Day at Ascot, and then that'll be about it, really. It'll start focusing on the jumps and be looking ahead to Cheltenham, the National, all those brilliant races that we have in the spring. And there's an awful lot beforehand. So Racing Corner this week, a little bit of an each-way steal, I hope.
I like it. So what places are we getting for that again, Buzz?
3. You get 3 places. Someone might go 4, but traditional betting is 3 places on the race. The favourite is very good, and I can't knock him, but sometimes I don't want to play an odds-on shot, and with the each-way angle there, I'm happy to take a chance. And she's a very unexposed horse. She could be so much better than all of these. We just don't know. She's only had the 2 runs. I'm willing to find out.
Nice. Now, Farley, you must be like a kid at Christmas today, because it's arguably the biggest day of the year for you, other than Super Bowl day, obviously. But it's the start of the NFL season tonight. This podcast will be going live before then. What is it you're fancying for the NFL this weekend?
Yeah, so look, the NFL starts tonight. By the time this goes out, I'll be, probably watching that over a nice cup of black coffee. And by the time you're watching this, it might already be over, and I'll probably be really, really tired at work. But one thing we're going to look forward to is Sunday's games. And no matter what else happens globally, we know that there will be games for you to watch if you're a sports fan on Sunday in the NFL. So from 6 p.m. UK time, we're going to have a whole slate of games, 14 games on Sunday. But there's 2 I like here as a little double. And I think you're getting some really nice value here. Quite often, you'll see people bet on NFL spreads or points totals. I've never been the biggest fan of it. And to be honest with you, I'll be absolutely honest, I'm not particularly good at that. I'm better at player props, and there aren't a huge amount of those out right now. But we do have some money line results, and I'm going to go for one underdog and one not quite underdog that I think are going to do really well here. First of all, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars in Washington. Washington are a dreadful team this year. They got Carson Wentz, who stunk up the place in Indianapolis last year, stunk up the place in his final few years in Philadelphia, and now is at a team that are far worse than any of the teams he's been at previously. And I think they are going to get smashed by the Jaguars. And I don't think the Jaguars are even that good, but the Jaguars are underdogs here and a decent price. Then you have the Panthers welcoming the Browns into Carolina. The Browns are a bit of a mixed bag. They've obviously got the controversy around Deshaun Watson that we better not go into, but he won't be playing. He's suspended. And this Browns team, I think, are good, but there's a lot of question marks there, whereas now the Panthers have the former Browns quarterback that they picked first overall just a couple of years ago, Baker Mayfield. He is now under center for the Panthers. And this is a guy who he has chips on his shoulder like other people have breakfast. It is all he has every day of his life. And he has always historically performed well when he's pissed off. And he's pretty annoyed that he was traded by the Browns and was sort of effectively not trusted with staying there another year and their pursuit of Deshaun Watson. He's very angry about it. He's actually personally selling T-shirts on his own website, basically effectively sort of saying that they're going to get their asses kicked. The guy has got pure attitude, but I think the Panthers are going to smash the Browns. I'm not betting against Baker Mayfield when he's pissed off. So for me, the Panthers, the Jags, it's a naughty little double at 3-1 that I think will keep you very interested on Sunday evening.
Sam, can I quickly ask a really quick question? So we covered this a little bit in our NFL pod. Just if people are new to NFL, I'm relatively new. I'm probably 3 seasons in now. I've started to play a fantasy draft. Jake's probably a couple of seasons behind me. How can you in 30 seconds, can you kind of try and win over the haters and explain how's the best way to get into the sport, especially if you're having a flutter as well? Because a lot of people follow tipsters on NFL because they don't know anything about it. They've probably got a few quid that they've won over the weekend and they're trying to turn it into a little bit bigger. How do you get in and watch NFL and learn about the game and understand offense, defense? Why is it so stop-start? And how can you learn to appreciate it better?
So I think the first thing you have to do is want to learn more about it. And the way I do recommend that is whack on Sky Sports or find a stream somewhere of NFL Red Zone on Sunday. Starts at 6 p.m. And that basically is every game at once. And they just quickly move over to wherever the action's happening and you see all the best bits. That is probably best for someone getting into the game because you don't have to deal with the stop-start nature of the sport. And it's just a lot of fun. And from
so it's like a BT Sport Goal Show.
Yeah,
it is.
I've been raving about that. Yes, okay, nice. You're selling it to me. You're selling it to me. Nice.
So just watch that. I think once you've got a bit of interest in that, you'll start wanting to see games maybe singly and just focus on that. So I think that's basically the gateway drug. That's the marijuana until you get onto the crack cocaine that is watching primetime games at 1:30 in the morning.
I don't know what we describe you as then, because you watch college games at silly o'clock on the Saturday. So yeah,
it's
not really a level
up in the street.
Yeah,
it's not really a level. Brilliant.
I love it. So we have actually got some Twitter questions this week. So I think we should go ahead with answering them. So first of all, we'll stick with NFL because I know you put a NFL request a bet up on the podcast. 750-1, which is a mad price. Simon has said, why is the 750-1 request a bet being suspended? Is the value too good? Is that what we're saying, lads?
Yeah, so
Some of us didn't get on. I'm fuming.
This bet has been suspended by Sky by that bookie involved. I'm not going to mention their name. And yeah, I think ultimately, sure, I could tell you it's about liabilities or they just had a bit too much action on it, but I'm going to word it as they are running scared.
They're running scared.
Terrified. They're part of the big giant that is Flutter now, and they're worried that we could take the whole business down, destroy the stock price. So that's what I would say for that. But let's stick with us. We'll have more stuff kind of through the season that I'm sure you'll be able to get on with, and hopefully get a bet on.
But be quick about it, because I was sat on my hands. I recorded said podcast with Sam, and I thought, I better put that bet on. The podcast went out. Clearly, a few people listened to it, and I'm quite curious that they didn't reprice it and put it in at a shorter price, because I'd probably have taken 500, 400. I think, Sam, you said it was about 300-1. You thought the value was there, didn't you? Something like that.
Yeah.
So there we go.
If you've not listened to the NFL podcast, give that a listen. It's available on all of our platforms, as always. Now, the other question we've had is from James, the FPL avocado himself. He's asked us a few questions over the last few weeks. He's asked, is there any early thoughts on the World Cup other than the England squad? Because he knows that we do like to talk about the England squad on this show. Is there anything either of you have seen in terms of value or?
Can I throw one out real quick, Jake?
Of course you can.
So you can get there's a market for first time winner, yes or no. You can get no at 4-11, which I think is 4-11 is not a nice bet. But that means let's go through the favourites. Brazil, they've won a World Cup. France won a World Cup. England won a World Cup. Argentina won a World Cup. Spain won a World Cup. Germany won a World Cup. So you're effectively hoping at 4 to 11.
Chuck Uruguay in there.
And yeah, they're in there as well.
Yeah.
But at 4 to 11, the 6 best teams, according to the bookies, will be the ones who win it, which basically means realistically, you're thinking the only way you lose is if the Netherlands, Portugal, Belgium, or Denmark win it, which, I mean, at 4 to 11, I think that is an incredible bet, to be honest with you.
If you're lucky enough to have deep reserves and you can play responsibly and you bet slightly bigger, I'd love to put that into like a anti-post bet builder if that existed, because it would be an absolute banker leg. That's a great shout, Sam.
I like it.
I feel a bit of a fraud really, because I haven't got nearly as juicy a bet, but I'm just checking that out and I do like it. I do really like it, Sam. I won't be playing top goal. My little bit of advice: won't be touching top goal scorer market right now because there's too many factors around injury. I'd also say as well, I don't think the World Cup's an event unless, for example, you're watching a game and you see a key player, like if Harry Kane got injured for England and you wanted to try and back something against him in terms of squads, you could be really sneaky and try that. I'll be probably holding my powder because there'll be some great offers around at the time. I think that'll definitely be a case. The one thing I would say is the week and 2 weeks before the World Cup, I'm going to keep my betting very, very steady because I'm expecting key players to really, like Paris Saint-Germain, I suspect if they're 2-0 up in their last game before they go on to the World Cup break, I think they're going to let your Messis and your Mbappes come off or not even have to play it. I think there's going to be some weird. I think you'll see a lot of draws, a lot of cards. I'm going to be backing undercards that week before the World Cup. There's too many players. There'll be an unwritten rule amongst professionals. Let's just get through the game. They're going to feel like preseason friendlies a little bit, I think. So I haven't really got a direct tip other than I'll be probably holding my powder now. Apart from maybe Sam's bet, if I had the millions to put on, I'd definitely be a big hitter at that price. But sadly, I'm not.
Yeah, the other thing to mention in terms of the World Cup is the League Cup fourth, maybe fifth round is written in for 3 days after the World Cup final. So it might be that we see value in the League Cup betting odds this year because there's going to be a lot of weak teams in the League Cup if it is, like I say, 3 days after the World Cup final. It's going to be mad. Boxing Day especially too. That's where we think that it's silly season now in terms of sort of some of the results. It is going to be truly silly season over Boxing and Christmas and that whole festive period because some of the results are going to be mad. And I'm sure the podcast that we have for those weeks is going to be an absolute minefield for us. We're going to be tipping some games. It's going to be like, wow, City have just lost 3-0. United have just lost 3-0. It's going to be crazy. But yeah, James, let us know what your thoughts are on the World Cup too. If there's anything in particular that you like, if there's any value in there. I was going to throw up a top goal scorer market, but Sam's mention of the injuries has literally just put me off. So there's nothing in particular.
Tell us who it was going to be because I feel bad now.
It was going to be Neymar at 16-1. I think that he's had an absolutely tremendous start to the season. And this is the first time in a long time where I've seen mates in group chat saying, oh my God, have you seen Neymar play? Have you seen what Neymar's doing over for PSG? I think he's been superb. 16-1 for him to be top goal scorer. And Brazil's group is fairly weak. Gabby Jesus at 33-1 too, maybe a price.
I think that's the standout for me.
Gabby Jesus 33-1. Yeah. Again, injuries maybe. It may not even be that Jesus starts as the striker. It might not.
I'll be honest, that price is more likely to go than stay, the Jesus one. I think Neymar, I don't think that's going to trim up too much.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
You just might find, either the tournament, someone will go 7 places, top goal scorer or something nutty.
Exactly.
I don't know.
As you said, go on, Buzz, go on.
No. I've got a Qatar.
I was going to say, as you said, Buzz, the specials that we will see, how many bookmakers have we seen in recent World Cups that offer like £2 free bets every time the player scores and stuff like that? Yeah. So again, it's worth looking at those markets closer to the time, definitely.
Right. Weekend treble time now, lads. So I've kind of teased and given mine away quite a lot, but Spurs +2, absolute banker bet for me, 5 to 6. I don't understand that price. So That's my sort of. I'm going with the shortest price. I think having a quick scan of what you've gone for. But I've spoken about it enough. I'm shutting up. Jake, you like Sheffield United to beat Rotherham -1. You're on the handicap train too.
I really like Sheffield United on the handicap. Yeah, they won last week against Hull away 2-0. They beat Reading 4-0 in a game which Farley tipped Sheffield United to win that game because he was having none of Reading. I think Sheffield United at home, they will be making that ground a fortress this year. That is going to help them in terms of trying to get promotion, which they will be aiming for. 13-10 is a massive price for the -1 on the handicap. So that's my pick for our weekend treble.
So I'm going to bring it home then. Now, this pick is 11-8, which makes the treble overall a nice 10-1. We're going back into the EFL here. We're going to Salford, a team that I'm sure is a blue you probably hate, Jake, don't you, with those class of 92 lads at the helm?
I like any local team except United, to be honest. I'll go watch Salford.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Salford are on the road, so you won't be able to watch them this week. They're over in sunny Rochdale. Rochdale are bottom of the entire Football League, 2 points out of 7. Both of them, obviously, well, I was going to say both draws. I mean, that's pretty obvious when you've got 2 points of 7, isn't it? But look, Rochdale are turgid, and Salford are a relatively good team. They're 4th in League 2 now, 4 wins under their belt, 14 points, 5 points off top. And I just think 11-8 for what is a pretty good team in League 2 against a team who are dreadful and almost certainly heading down is just, it's one of those you just stop and look and think, how can that be right? So for me, 11-8, steal, real steal.
Right, amazing, nice 10-1. Listen, we do give you winners. We obviously individually do a lot of tipping together, but it's quite nice when you look at our EFL bets. But this has taken an early contender as sort of strongest area of us, which is a bit strange. So interesting to see we've got a couple of EFL shouts in there as well as my Spurs one. We must mention our Champions League pod will be back. Did okay last week, but we're warming up into the competition now. Obviously, it's a little bit easier now. We've all seen some of these teams that perhaps we hadn't caught up in domestic action. That will be out, I think, Sunday night for you guys to get an early head start because these lines do move around a bit. One of the advantages of us recording a little bit earlier, we do get you the value, or at least we try. Anything else from you, Jake Ashton, at all?
City going to beat Spurs 7-1.
There we go. That's Jake, who has clearly been drinking tonight. Sam, anything else from you?
Nothing from me. Enjoy your weekends. Have a great time. And let's hope we get some good football.
Enjoy the NFL.
Yeah, don't forget, check out the NFL podcast for some great value. Plenty of bets on there you can still get on and enjoy. And we'll be back. And hopefully we'll have found you some winners. Add your comments below. We love to hear your weekend best bets. Any questions, get stuck in on our social feeds as well.